what's so magical about the outdoors that in my life, and I'm not alone in this, but in my life, it replaced religion. Cannot believe how many lakes there are. You carry your canoe on a portage and you're like, there's another lake, and you get in it, you paddle through it, and you get out, and like, oh, there's another lake.
Recently, I had an opportunity to sit down with Tony Jones, author of the book, The God of Wild Places, for a conversation about his transition from pastor to outdoorsman and conservationist, the role of the divine in hunting, and the importance of protecting places like the boundary waters. So look, if you're somebody who loves the outdoors, or if you're somebody who is going through a transition in your life, you're going to want to tune into this episode. It's a good one. I know I enjoyed it. Get ready. It's time to enter the Wild Lab. Welcome back to the Wild Lab, everybody. I'm your host, Ned Widener, and today I got a really very special guest, Tony Jones, who is, he's a lot of things, right? He is an author of over 12 books, including The God of Wild Places. He's a theologian, a professor, a former pastor. He's an outdoorsman, definitely. Yeah, and today, Tony, I just want to talk about outdoors. I want to talk about hunting. I want to talk about fishing. I want to talk about the boundary waters a little bit. So let's get into it. How are you today, Tony?
I'm great, Ned. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. I want to ask you a question that I ask everybody, or I ask a lot of people here. And I know, having read your book, The God of Wild Places, I know you have an interesting answer for this. What does it mean to be wild?
I think to me, for me, what it means to be wild is to be uncultivated, or to be outside the bounds of society and society's expectations. And you know my book, so I wrote about this, that a lot of what we've done, a lot of our success as a species has been cultivation. The Latin word from which we get culture, we also get the word cultivation, because it's very similar. What's happened in human society is we have cultivated our lives. And just before I jumped in here, I'm still a little sweaty because I mowed the lawn and I sprayed some weed killer on the lawn. I sprayed weed killer on the lawn because my wife's out of town, because I can't do it when my wife's in town, because she is afraid that her little 11-pound Chihuahua mutt rescue dog will get cancer from the stuff I spray on the lawn.
Yeah.
So I hate it. I hate having a lawn. I hate spraying it for weeds. I hate everything about it. I hate having to mow it. It's so stupid. And yet, up and down my block in the suburbs here of Minneapolis, everybody's got a lawn, and everybody mows it. And we've cultivated our lives in certain ways. That's our culture. And to be wild means to get out of that, and to remind ourselves where we came from as a species, I think. And then the other thing that comes to mind is, do you follow on Instagram? Do you follow this account called Nature is Metal?
Yeah.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine is Nature is Not Metal.
Oh, it's like sweet things like butterflies and stuff.
It's all just like companion species thing. Yeah, the opposite of it. Yeah.
Okay, the thing I love about Nature is Metal is it's just this daily reminder of how wild this planet still is for virtually every species except us.
Right. Right.
And maybe dogs and cats, although sometimes there's dogs who get mixed up in that too.
For sure. Yeah.
When a pack of coyotes comes into the backyard.
Right. And tries to lure them off.
A little of the dog's wildness may come back into play,
For sure. I'm always, I live out here in the Eastern Sierra, and so I don't have a lawn. I have sagebrush essentially, and a lot of tumbleweed too, which is a massive problem. But anytime I go back home to Ohio, I'm just I always think, if an alien were to land on this planet, or maybe they already have, but if an alien were to land on this planet and they landed in the Midwest, in the suburbs, or somewhere in Ohio, or perhaps Minneapolis, they would look at us and be like, why do you pray to grass? What is
well, look, praying to it, bro. I was out walking my dog last night, and there was a woman sitting on her yard with a garbage bag propped up next to her and pulling out crabgrass by hand.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
literally on her hands and knees, you know,
Yeah.
like she was praying to the grass. It's completely crazy. I heard something that last week that like we spent, I mean, I have an electric mower, so I'm not guilty of this. I'm just
Mm.
burning coal to charge my
Right.
battery.
Which is a lot better. Yes.
We use 8 billion gallons of gas per year on lawnmowers.
I mean, that sounds. I have no idea. I have no idea the context for that, but that sounds like a lot. Yeah, that sounds like an
Oh my
astronomical
gosh.
amount.
So wild, man. Wild is the opposite of me mowing my lawn.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I feel you. Yeah, it's. I don't know if you've ever read the book Crabgrass Frontier. It's a book all about the history of how those lawns started in the United States, essentially, and yeah, it's a history of domestication. You know,
Yeah.
it's a history of
Yeah.
cultivation and domestication, not just of of our geography, which has in turn, well, simultaneously, you know, domesticated ourselves. At least that's what his argument is. And
Well, yeah,
I forget his name. I forget
and
the
I
name
don't
of the
want to
author.
throw shade on my ancestors and your ancestors who worked very hard to take this wild continent and make it, I mean, really turned this continent into the world's most powerful economy and the
Hmm.
world's most powerful government
Yeah,
because of the resources of this continent. And getting the resources out of this continent was not easy. I mean, they worked really, really hard, and we live very comfortable, leisurely lives as a result of the hard work that they did.
absolutely.
But like with so many things, there's also something lost in
Hmm.
that,
Yeah.
progression.
One of the things I really like about your book is, I mean, I like a lot about it, the way it's structured and all things. And, you know, we were talking before on the air or off before I hit record. But in my own writing, like I've copied partially at least the thematic structure of what you did in the God of Wild Things, how you break it down with like, you know, what is it? I'm looking at it now, but vestiments and place and prayer, or not prayer, but predator, failure, risk, meat, death, God, like all, you know, the thematic order of that. But what it actually, one of the things um, that it illustrates is your own sort of, and I don't think you use this word in the book, I'm quite confident you don't, but like your own sort of rewilding in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
from academic pastor to outdoorsman. Can you walk folks through that I mean, I know it's a lot, but can you walk folks through that transition a little bit, like who you were before and how you've made the transition into who you are now?
I will. Let me tell you. I mean, I know you're an author, and so I'll tell you a little quick author story first. On that is, I years ago I had a book come out, and I had a book reading at this store in Austin, Texas called Book People, which is like one of the great independent bookstores in the country. And I don't know, they'd probably set up 30 chairs for my book reading, and
Hmm.
maybe there were 10 people there, you
Hmm.
know. And
Yeah.
the guy who like runs the store, whatever, he's looking at his watch like, let's just give it a few more minutes because maybe people, I'm like,
Maybe.
ain't
Yeah.
nobody else coming, bro. This is
Right. This is
this is
it.
And then he says to me, this is just killer. He goes, you should have been here last week. Deepak, he goes, Deepak Chopra was here. The
Yeah.
fire marshal shut down the building because we had too many people in it.
Right.
So all this to say, then he said, let me tell you what Deepak Chopra did. It was brilliant. He had this book called The Third Jesus. That was his book at the time that he was promoting. So Deepak Chopra gets up to the standing room only crowd, and he talks about the first Jesus was the Jesus he met at like Anglican prep school when he was a kid. And the second Jesus he met was the Jesus of like literature when he was at Oxford. And then he's like, and the third Jesus, well, you're going to have to buy the book to read about the third Jesus. Genius, right?
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah.
So you're asking me to basically give away no, I'm just kidding. I'm
No,
just
like
giving you
no.
grief, buddy. Don't worry. Um, yeah, of course people should buy the book and find out, really how does this guy save himself? But uh I was here's the short version. I grew up in Minnesota. I grew up 2 blocks from where I'm sitting right now in a very nice white upper Midwest suburb in the 70s and 80s, very bucolic kind of perfect childhood, very, well, I mean, upper middle class parents who went to college and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad had a white collar job and did very well. And they were on the church council, and, my mom was on the school board, and et cetera, et cetera. Somewhere along the line, though, I did not I don't know exactly how to say it. I didn't have when I got married in my late 20s, I did not have the tools in the toolbox to choose wisely. I'll put
Yeah.
it that way. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here.
I was kicking ass in every other realm of my life. I had my dream job as a youth pastor at my home church. I already had a master's degree. I was thinking I'll probably get a PhD, which I ultimately did. But I made a very bad choice in a marriage partner, and the next 12 of my years of my life were an increasingly hellish experience, to the point that by the time I filed for divorce at age 40, I was whatever, broke. My house got foreclosed on. I lost a lot of work. I lost almost all work. Frankly, that stuff sucked, but it was the sense of failure, and there's a lot in the book about that.
Mm-hmm.
The sense of failure that I had as somebody who came out of this perfect family where nobody ever got divorced and whatever, and now I'm like this former pastor going through this wicked, nasty, nasty divorce that then suddenly goes public because of the GD internet decides to amplify everything, because I'm kind of like a minor Christian celebrity at the time. So it was really, really a bad time. Really, really a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Can
I
I?
fell into hunting, and I fell into going outdoors. I mean, I'd always been a little bit outdoorsy, but I turned a corner when I turned 40, and I became absolutely passionate about being outdoors, particularly about hunting. And then when you know, fast forward 10 years, 12 years, when I was writing the book, I'm looking back and I'm trying to answer this question. What was it about hunting, and what was it about the outdoors? It wasn't just an escape. Surely it was an escape, but it wasn't just an escape. It was other stuff too. So then that's what I try to unpack in the book, is what's so magical about the outdoors that in my life, and I'm not alone in this,
Mm-mm.
but in my life, it replaced religion. The outdoors supplanted religion in giving me meaning and purpose in my life.
I want to. That's a key point. I want to definitely unpack a little bit. Before we do, though, I want to circle back to something that you said before, which was that you were in your 20s and you were a man who couldn't make decisions, or you couldn't. Sorry, you couldn't choose wisely, I think is how you
I
put it.
couldn't choose wisely a spouse. I
Right.
think most other things in my life I was good at, but for whatever reason, I just had this blind spot with women, frankly.
Well, yeah. And I think you're not. I know you're not alone in that. I know that there's many people that experience that same thing. From a personal perspective, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think you couldn't choose wisely in that
I
particular aspect?
think,
What
I
about it?
mean, I'm not just going to blame my parents, but it turns out, I don't think I was really aware of this in my 20s, but my parents had a terrible marriage,
Hmm.
a pretty loveless marriage, growing in resentment against each other. My dad's dead. I write about that in the book, as you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
My mom's still alive, and I had her over for dinner last night, and we talk about this kind of stuff all the time. I mean, she would never have said it while my dad was alive. She'll talk about it pretty candidly now. Um, my mom also has obsessive compulsive disorder. So I grew up with a parent who has a personality disorder that was at times very debilitating for her. And then my dad was he'd go between kind of like enabling it and catering to it, to being very pissed off and resentful about it, that she had this problem. And so I think that's why I'm an oldest child, so I didn't see my brothers
Mm.
I didn't have older siblings who were kind of like navigating romantic relationships and falling in love and getting broken up with, and figuring out
Hmm.
who should you spend the rest of your life with. um my parents didn't really talk to me about it. I mean, I was in therapy a lot in my 20s and it helped some, but not enough, obviously, because I got, you know, I walked into a very, very toxic marriage and there were ample red flags,
Yeah, yeah,
ample warning signs had I paid attention.
yeah. And like I said, man, you're not alone. You're not alone in that. And the reason
Right.
I asked
Yeah.
that question is that, a lot of part of what I do when I'm not a professor is taking people out into the woods, right? I take them hunting and fishing, and take men specifically out into the woods as a way to help them become better people, help them become better men. And very common refrain in a lot of their stories is exactly that, right? Like they didn't know how to. They don't necessarily put it. They didn't know how to make a choice, but they didn't necessarily. They didn't. They what they often say is they didn't know who they were, and then instead, and they made choices for other people, right? And so I'm just curious. I'm curious about that from your perspective because I know it's one that like a lot of people, men and women, a lot of people share that same experience, and so people, yeah, it
Yeah.
will resonate with people for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, my kids are, my 3 kids are all in their 20s now.
Hmm.
And I'm like super nervous for them. I do not want them to go through what I went through.
Yeah.
I want them to choose wisely. I want them to take it slow. I want them to ask their friends and family, do you think this is a good potential partner for me? And I want people to be honest with them because, man, the pain and suffering that comes with it, somebody told me, and I, yeah, somebody told me, I remember during my marriage, something like the best day of the worst day of being single is better than the best day of a bad marriage. And I'm like, whew,
Mm. Some
that's
heavy
a little
stuff
too
right
close
there.
to home.
Yeah.
That's a little too close to home.
Yeah.
But I want now. I really hope my kids. And what did they go through? Well, they went through a really bitter, nasty divorce that they were very much implicated in.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, generational sin was what some people would call that. I don't know, but I hope they can break the chain.
Right on. Right on. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. But I do want to get back to like the what got you into hunting thing, right? That this so in the book, it's been a while since I read it, but like I remember there's a moment where you're duck hunting in Lake of the Woods. Is that like was your first time duck hunting, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Can you yeah, what got you like what got you into hunting? And then also, well, a follow-up question is like why do you hunt? Like what is it
Well,
about it?
I mean, the story in the book that kind of leads off the book is this: that I was, and now your listeners will, kind of understand this, but like around age 30, I was super angry. I had a lot of anger, and I did not know what to do with it. I didn't have healthy ways to let it out. To and I was in uh, a meeting at church one night with the youth committee because I was the youth pastor. So it's just a bunch of parents who like want to plan the confirmation banquet. They're just sweet parents of teenagers who just want to help out at church. And Ned, I lost my shit. I can't even remember what it was about, but I I came completely unhinged at this little committee of these well-meaning parents, and I was yelling and I was so pissed. And the chairman of the committee, he kind of adjourned the meeting, and then
Mhm.
he and another mom walked me out to my car, just trying to calm me down. And of course, I had all this unresolved anger in my marriage and etc.
Sure.
That's what it was coming out
Sure.
sideways. Well, this guy Doug took me out to breakfast. The chair of the youth committee. He took me out to breakfast a couple days later, and not only did he confess to me that he had problems with anger and told me about this anger management class that I ended up taking, but he also invited me to go duck hunting. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. What the hell? And so we went up to Lake of the Woods to his cabin, way, way up in the deep Canadian shield of Lake of the Woods, and duck hunted for 4 or 5 days. And it was unlike anything I'd ever done. I mean, this is 1999, probably. We didn't have Garmin inReaches. We weren't, we didn't
Right.
have, we sure as hell didn't have Starlink. I
Yeah.
wasn't texting my wife or anything like that. I think that Doug had an old bag phone that he had like plugged into a car battery in his cabin, but we didn't take it with us when we drove 3 hours in a duck boat to go duck hunting.
Right, right.
It
Yeah.
was intense, man. It was
Yeah.
intense, and I loved it. And there's a scene in the book about, we're on the way back from a hunt and fog comes in and we get lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this very kind of mystical experience of peace, even though we're, frankly, our lives were in danger. And yet I felt no anxiety about it. It was really something else. So yeah, that's kind of a pivot point in the book, and in my life, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, so hunting has since then has become a big part of your life, right? And
Mhm.
so you were 30 at the time, which I don't really like the phrase, but like I guess that makes you like an adult onset hunter or whatever
Oh yeah,
that's
I'm an adult onset hunter for sure.
whatever that is.
That I know it. Tovar Cerulli came up with that phrase,
I don't have
and
it. Yeah, I'm not
he
familiar, but
he wrote a book called oh, why am I blanking on his book? This is terrible. I can see the cover, The Mindful Carnivore.
I'm familiar. Okay, I'm familiar
Yeah, you
with
should
him.
have that
Yeah,
guy in your
yeah,
pod. He's
yeah.
great. He's great, and so he like invented that term. And I love it. It opens a lot of doors. You tell people that because a lot of people, you're when I'm speaking at Pheasant Fest, the
Mm-hmm.
biggest upland hunting conference every year. Most guys you meet grew up hunting. Oh yeah, my dad took me pheasant hunting, and my grandpa was a duck hunter, and we got deer camp. We do it with my uncles every year, blah blah blah. And if you didn't have that, it's a hard thing to break into.
It is.
Thing is a hard thing to break into if you
It
don't
is.
have family connections, if you don't have places to hunt. It's why I'm on the board of the Minnesota chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, because that's just an organization that I have found that guys are like, they're not like, I'm not telling you my honey hole. They're just they want more people to hunt, so they're very generous. And I'm like, well, if that's the general vibe of this organization, then I want to support it, and with my time and money. So yeah, I am an adult onset hunter, and I have a lot of sympathy for people who are trying to break into hunting. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, first off, I love BHA. It's one of my favorite. I'm a member. I'm a member, and I do lots of. I'm not on the board or anything, but I do. I mean, shoot, this month alone, I'm mentoring hunters in 3 different BHA events: deer
Awesome.
hunting, bear hunting, two different bear hunting events, and also some fish stuff. So like, I'm pretty active in
Yeah,
our in
great.
our chapter, but largely because of what you said. Like, it's a really great organization and a group of people who not only do they take people, like, want more people to hunt and fish, right? But they want it because, at least, and this is my interpretation of it, and one of the reasons why I really like them, is that they want that to happen for the betterment of the ecosystem, for the betterment of for conservation purposes, right? It's not just like, we're going out to kill things, but it's like, how can we make this land better? How can we be good stewards of the land? How can we give back to, nature, that provides for us so much? And that's what I really like about that organization is the
Yeah,
is the stewardship and
that
conservation
that
aspect
that's
of it.
my experience with BHA, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I you said, and it's in your book full fledged. I mean, that's what the entire book is about. Um, the relationship between, or similarities, relationship, I'm not entirely sure how to phrase this question, but the relationship between your outdoor activities, between hunting and fishing and prayer. Like, what's the difference, if there is one?
Yeah. What is the difference, Ned? That's that's a great question. Years ago, I there's a very famous book by, well, he didn't actually write it because he was probably illiterate, but it's attributed to Brother Lawrence. It was written by, he was a monk, and it was written by a priest who got to know him in his monastery, and it's called The Practice of the Presence of God, and it's one of the most famous and most profound books in Western literature, in the Western canon, because this guy talks about he's a very simple guy, but he talks about every single thing he does in life, he turns it into prayer. And he's just conscious of God no matter what he's doing. So it's very, it's this kind of famous example of Brother Lawrence talking about making peeling potatoes a prayer. He's living by Benedict's rule. So his whole life is circumscribed by work, prayer, and sleep. That's what he does every single day. He doesn't leave the monastery. He doesn't get a vacation. Like, that's all he does. He does the same stuff every day. It seems to us moderns, it seems almost maddeningly mundane and monotonous of a life. So to read him talking about praying through peeling potatoes, or praying through just the most mundane things that he had to do on a daily basis, I think the point in that book that translates to hunting and fishing and canoeing and hiking and the other outdoor stuff I do is it's all about consciousness. It's all about being aware and being conscious of what you're doing and being in the moment and turning that moment into a spiritual exercise. And so I'm deliberate. I mean, I'm not perfect at it.
Wouldn't expect anyone to
Right.
be, but yeah.
But I'm deliberate about it. And I just make a point when I'm out that it's going to be a spiritual encounter, whether I kill an animal or not, whether I'm hunting alone or with a group of guys. I just do everything I can as often as I can think of it to be deliberate, be mindful. It's an overused word,
Yeah.
right, in this day and age, but it's a beautiful word that has a meaning. And it's about, well, it's even in the little exercise we did before you hit record, it's just grounding yourself, being in the moment. So that's how I do it with hunting. And then, there are, of course, certain aspects of hunting that are very dissimilar to a lot of other things that you might think, oh, these are spiritual things or something, like killing an animal, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Like, I mean, frankly, like injuring an animal and then not finding it. Brutal.
The worst.
Just a brutal, grievous experience. But part of the human experience, to grieve that and to be honest about it. I just hate the vast majority of hunting shows
Mm-hmm.
where it's like whisper, 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 bang, high five, high five. Oh my
Right.
God, oh my God.
Yeah.
High five. Way to go, dude.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of grip and grins,
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with a big dead animal. Hate
Yeah.
it.
I
Hate it.
I do too. They use phrases like "smoke that joker" or
Yeah.
or what. Like
Yeah.
I
Whack
can't
them and
stand it.
stack them.
Right? No, I can't stand it.
Hate it. So for any of your listeners who've seen shows like that, and I'm sure you're the same way, Ned, but I try to cultivate a hunting experience that is the exact opposite of those,
Yeah,
those
for
hunting
sure.
experiences. And I'm trying even more, like, not to post on Instagram, that what one of my friends, she calls the tailgate of death, with all the
Mm.
pheasants piled
Oh,
up
right,
on
right.
the
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
tailgate,
Yeah.
and the dogs. I mean, we
Yeah.
always take it and we share the photos and whatever, but I'm posting stuff like that a lot less. I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
more. I'm focusing more on writing, trying to use words to describe the experience, the encounter, rather than just rely on images or videos or something like that. Yeah, so I'm a work in progress.
Yeah, we all are. I mean, I do the same, especially with like post or not posting. I will. I mean, I have a video of my partner and friend, he's one of my hunting guides and friend, praying to a bear that he had killed, and so I have that, because that resonates with me, and that like represents what how I see hunting, and the spiritual aspect of it and the sacredness aspect of it. But yeah, I don't have, yeah, I don't have any any, and I'm very any other pictures of dead things on my social media, and it's very very intentionally, you know. But I'm curious, like what that, so that's like outside of and after the hunt, or maybe before the hunt. But what does that look like to you during? Yeah, what are some of the
It depends on
practices?
the hunt.
Sure.
It depends on the hunt. The way we hunt deer in Minnesota is sitting in a ladder stand
All
for
right.
hours.
Right. Right.
I
Right. Right.
mean, some people sit in heated like blinds, but
Yeah.
I'm in the woods, so a
Yeah.
blind would do me no good. So I'm in a ladder stand, usually freezing my ass off,
Mm-hmm.
usually with one AirPod in one ear, listening to an audiobook, you know. Um, and but that's very different, being in the quiet woods and sitting for 8 hours, um, and trying to listen for a deer, pushing through the aspen thicket, than it is like, you know, pounding through a, a I'll tell you that, like, probably my favorite hunt is a late season pheasant hunt in South
Mm.
Dakota,
Yeah.
and we're pushing through like insane cattails. That's all. The birds are in the cattails. There's snow. You're busting through the ice. Um, um, birds get up. You don't get a shot. The cattails are up over your eyes. You don't know where your dog is. It's pandemonium.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 degrees outside, but you're drenched in sweat.
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
Yeah.
and frankly, for that hunt, so different than that deer hunt of sitting in a ladder stand. What I find myself spiritually thinking is feeling extraordinary gratitude that I have a body and the ability to do that hunt, the ability to push myself so hard physically that by the end of the day, I'm completely wiped out. The dog and I are both completely out of gas, and as if you've done hunts like that, like getting rolling back into town and getting a beer, getting a pitcher of beer and a pizza, there is nothing better.
Yeah.
It's like, that's Eucharist, man.
Yeah.
Just like pizza and beer with your buddies after working your butts off all day and and you're like, boy, you look around, no, you look around, it's like it's mid-December in South Dakota. Remember mid-October when this whole bar was full of guys in blaze orange? They're gone. They're
Yeah.
gone. We're the only ones. And
Right.
then we're high-fiving. We're like, yeah, we're the guy. Like, we're so crazy about this that
Mm-hmm.
we're coming back to do it. And we do spend, I mean, I hunt with some guys. Three of my best hunting buddies are in their 70s. One guy's going to turn 80 this year. And they're still out there pounding
Yeah.
boot leather, man.
Oh, that's
And
beautiful.
so
Yeah.
we talk about this a lot. We talk about
Mm-hmm.
mortality, but we
Mm.
talk about, I mean, these guys want, it's so funny because I'm like, okay, I'll go to South Dakota 4 times this year. And my buddy Larry, who's 79, he's like, how about 6? you know, he wants to get
Yeah.
every drop out of the washcloth, man. He is
Yeah. Yeah.
squeezing it
Yeah.
as,
Yeah.
because he knows at some point, and in
Yeah.
not that long into the future,
Right.
he is not going to be able to
To do it.
pound that
Yeah.
boot leather. And
Yeah.
so we have a lot of these kind of talks. And sad things. This is another kind of a weird thing about hunting. I keep in touch with these guys during the off season, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm intensely in these guys in their lives for 3 months, and then the other 9 months, it's like once in a while a text like, "Hey, I bought some new hunting boots," or "Cleaning my gun today," or
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
or "Cooked up some pheasant for the wife." So then you're in this weird kind of cycle, and then you get back together with these guys 9 months later, and oh my gosh, like, oh, my brother died,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my kid's getting divorced. Then you like are suddenly you're back in these guys' lives, and you're basically the religious word for it is you're having fellowship with these
Fellowship. I was gonna say
guys.
brotherhood, fellowship,
Yeah,
but yeah,
brotherhood.
it's the same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's that. I mean, that's one of the most beautiful things that I love about hunting too. I don't do a lot of bird hunting. I did when I was younger. I don't so much anymore. It's mainly bear and deer and elk and turkey, and that's the largest, most extent of it. But I'm with you in it's the thing that I love the most are those really hard, difficult hunts. The ones where, I mean, like I'm walking miles over a ridge line, to Glasses Valley, or packing in. It was in Hell's Canyon, spent a lot of time in Hell's Canyon this past year. And I mean, it's just up and down and torturous and early spring, and it's half snow and half not snow. And it's also like 80 degrees, so you're walking in just slushy snow, then it's super
Mhm.
hot.
Mhm.
Yeah, I barely saw it. I did have a chance at a bear, but didn't end up taking the shot because it was so far back in the woods. But I loved every minute of it,
Mhm.
right? Because it was difficult and because it challenged me. And I think it challenged me to get to what you were saying earlier, right? To the whole crabgrass frontier of it all. Like it challenges me to step outside of that suburban lawn. That, I mean, I don't have one, but like I do spend some time in Southern California where I have a lawn, you know and so it challenges me to step outside of that, challenges you to
Yeah.
step
Yeah.
outside of that domesticity. And that's, I think uh, not just for men, for women, I think for all humans, it's a fundamental necessity to life, that without that challenge and without meeting that challenge and without that connection to these more primal aspects of life, like we can just be lost, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
and frankly, every year that passes, it's harder to do because life gets more comfortable and luxurious. The big debate in Minnesota right now in the outdoors community not only is Save the Boundary Waters, but it's
mhm.
forward-facing sonar. Forward-facing
Right, right,
sonar,
right. Yeah,
where
yeah,
these guys are driving around and they've got cameras under their boat and they can see, oh, there's a muskie, cast 25 yards at 2 o'clock off the bow
yeah,
of the boat,
yeah.
and you land your lure right over the nose of a muskie. The fish of 10,000 casts, they used to call it. It's
Right.
not that
Yes, it's
anymore
not
with
anymore.
forward facing sonar. And
Yeah.
now in Minnesota, it's legal for everybody to get a crossbow. You don't need to be an
Mm,
old guy with a bad shoulder to get a
right.
crossbow. So nobody's buying compound bows anymore. They're
Hmm.
all buying crossbows because it's like a
Interesting.
gun. It's a gun that you can shoot for 3 months
Yeah.
instead of a week
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
deer, for whitetail.
Yeah.
I just think, and I'm not like, again, I don't want to throw shade on people who have forward facing sonar or who use crossbows, but that's just not how I'm going to hunt.
Right. Right.
I'm going to hunt. I'm going to make it a little, I'm going to try to make it a little more challenging. I don't, I'll go to a game farm if I need to work my dog or something, or some guy
Hmm.
invites me, but
Hmm.
that's not hunting. Hunting is chasing wild birds, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, the whole forward facing sonar thing just it I I don't know much about it, but it astounds me that people are like actually interested in it, because it's not about. I think fishing is not about. It's not really about catching the fish. It's about fishing. It's about the act and the practice of exploring the water and trying to understand what's
Yeah.
happening on the
Yeah.
below the surface with the clues that are on top of the surface. And that to me is that mystery of trying to figure it out is what is interesting. And if it is, or if it was so easy just to like go out and like, okay, well, there's a fish, I'm gonna catch it. Like, I don't know what the point is, Tony. Like, why am
No,
I
it would be
there?
like if it were legal. Our deer hunting land is 276 acres. So to like in the morning, you could fly a drone around the property,
Hmm.
be like, "Where are the deer this morning? Oh, there they are. Let's go kill them." You know, that's well, we can't do that. But we can have cellular operated, cameras all
Hmm.
over the woods, so you
Yeah.
can actually see where the deer are in real time. These are very challenging ethical questions that are not really being talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and they're important, but and like I said, to me, it just defeats the entire purpose of being out in the woods.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm not. I do have cameras, but like Largely because some of the places that I hunt, man, I mean, they're 8 miles back into the mountains. You know what I mean? And so if I don't know, it's a long way to hunt to walk 8 miles, and
To check the SD card.
they might be the other 8 miles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I
It's
do, man. I mean, guys hunted bears for many, many, many years without those,
They did. They did. And to your point, like this year, actually, all of my cameras except for one have been dismantled by bears.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, they've all except for
You
one. I
should
have.
stop covering them in honey when you hang them.
Yeah. No, man, they I don't know what it is. Like
They don't
they
like them.
yeah, they're curious creatures, and they will, like, if they see one, um and they smell something on it, man, they'll just destroy it. They
No
they they
kidding.
can just tear them
So your
apart, man.
last picture you get is like a bear claw
Bear,
coming
like,
up.
yeah, a bear claw or a bear, mouth coming over the camera, and then just like
That's
you find
awesome.
the camera 15 yards away, or whatever, broken, the antenna ripped off. Yeah, it's but it's a it's
I
a it's a slippery slope, that whole thing,
I got my first bow. This will be my first year ever bow hunting. I've been
Hmm.
primarily a bird hunter, and I just hunt deer, shoot a big doe, fill the freezer kind of thing
Hmm.
during rifle season. But I bought my first bow. I was gonna put in for a bear tag this year, but then I was like, I can I feel like I can only try one new thing a year. So
Mm,
this year it's gonna be bow hunting whitetails.
yeah,
And then I think next year, because I keep getting bears on camera too.
I would
We got
imagine I would
bears. We
imagine
got
you have plenty up there in Minnesota.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I told you this, I used to spend a lot of time in the Boundary Waters. I grew up in Ohio, and like every summer, I don't know, from time I was like 9 until I was, maybe we missed a couple summers, but like 9 until I was like 20. Like we went up into the Boundary Waters in Quetico, and um just I love that place. It's an amazing place, and I think you're very fortunate to live close, as close as you
Yeah.
do to
Yeah.
it.
Except even this week, the
What
administration says they are going to start mining in the Boundary
Oh, is that
Waters
right?
watershed. Uh huh. Yeah.
Interesting.
There's a 20-year, the Biden administration put a 20-year moratorium on any nickel, copper, sulfide mining in the Boundary Waters
Right.
watershed.
I remember that. Yeah.
And Trump this week said he's going to reverse that.
Wow. Well, so I mean, I'd imagine, as on the board of Minnesota PHA, you know quite a bit about that, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly, calling, trying to get our members to call, and I mean, I encourage any of your listeners, even if they've never been to the Boundary Waters, call. I mean, it's a little bit like the big thing, the land, the big land giveaway that
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
going to happen,
Right.
and it was Republicans um saying to Mike Lee in Utah, no, we're not voting for this in the reconciliation bill. You can't sell 1 million acres of public land in Utah and Nevada and whatever. And so it's going to be the same thing. I mean, it's being led by a Republican congressman from northern Minnesota. And he's a real MAGA guy. And so he's got Trump on his side to do this. And frankly, it's all the Democratic senators and Congress people can jump up and down like their hair's on fire and no one's going to care. But if people out there are represented by Republicans and say, yeah, we're all for mining, but maybe just not in the Boundary Waters watershed, you know, let's just protect that. Um, that, that's the only thing I can see that would
Well,
stop it.
why the bound? I mean, like, why the Boundary Waters? Because for one, I don't think a lot of people know about it.
Mm,
Like, I mean, I think,
good.
well, a lot of people obviously
Don't
do know
come.
about
Don't
it.
come. Don't come. It's already too crowded. Don't
Right.
come.
It is. I mean, I realized that in the last time that I was there, I went to a spot and I was like, we used to go and we didn't see anybody, and then
Right.
went to another spot and I was like, oh wow, there's like 8 other canoers up here. This is
Yeah, I
wild.
mean, there are days when I don't go till after Labor Day anymore because
Okay.
of the
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, still, even so, there'll be like you're on this big lake and you look and you see, oh look, there's 3 other canoes way on the oh, I think they're going for the same campsite we are. And then you're just like,
Right, you're paddling hard.
yes, everyone's just paddling as
Yeah.
hard as they can to try.
Yeah.
It's a race to the campsite.
Yeah. I've been there for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, tell people a little bit about what is the Boundary Waters, man?
Well, it's a 1,000,000 acre wilderness. I mean, the best. I lead a group every year of different people. Usually, it's pastors.
Mm-hmm.
These are people with very soft hands
Mm-hmm.
who sit at desks and
Mm-hmm.
go to meetings and visit people in the hospital, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't paddle for 8 hours a day and then cook pancakes for breakfast where you can see the mosquitoes landing in the batter. You know what I mean? They're not
Yeah.
used to that.
Well, the mosquitoes up there are huge, by the way. But yes.
Oh yeah, they'll carry you away if you don't watch it.
Yeah.
Watch out. And so I take people up there every year, and I had a buddy of mine was here with me a couple years ago, and he's from Virginia. He's a Methodist pastor in Virginia. And we were driving back down to the Twin Cities so I could drop him and the other guys at the airport so they could fly home. I said to him, I'll just never forget this. He was sitting shotgun in my truck, and I was like, Jason, like, what do you think? What was your? And he said, I cannot believe how many lakes there are.
It's amazing.
He's like, I knew that there was a lot of lakes because I'd looked at the maps. You look at the map and you're like, oh, there's a lot of lakes between, Grand Marais, Ely, and the Canadian border. And then there's even more. You go up into Quetico, right?
Yeah.
But he's like, until I got there and I saw it, and you're like, you carry your canoe on a portage and you're like, there's another lake, and you get in it, you paddle through it, and you get up, and like, oh, there's another lake, and you can see through the trees, there's another lake over there. There's just lakes everywhere. And he just had kind of like no frame of reference as a guy from the East Coast for that much water and that much fresh water. And then, I'm sure I wrote it in the book, but I'm like, I don't filter my water. I don't filter my Boundary Waters water. I drink straight from the lake.
Do you? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No beaver fever?
No, man, that Giardia sinks. So if you scoop your water and you're in 20 feet of water, there's no Giardia on the surface of the water. If you scoop your water from the shore, that's when you're going to get Giardia.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So no, I have this theory that when people get the Hershey squirts up there, it's because it's E. coli. It's because somebody who cooked the meal for dinner last night didn't wash their hands after they went to the biffy.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Giardia. Giardia lands you in the hospital.
I've had it before. I had it when I was in Peru, and I've seen other people that had it in the Boundary Waters before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When I was a kid, one of
they must got
leaders.
Real
I don't know
sick.
how they got it. They were real sick. They had to be air flighted out. Yeah.
Okay.
And so they were
and
very, very sick. Yeah.
And so it is possible for sure, but you can't get it when there's 30 feet between the surface of the lake and the bottom.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so, but a mine in there, like what? Like I just can't even imagine. It's all connected. It's all rivers and lakes, and like you put a mine close to it, it's gonna seep in. I think it's like an impossible.
Of course, no, it's ridiculous. And of course, the company is Antofagasta, a Chilean mining company. It's not even it's not even an American. Oh, it's American jobs. There are going to be so few jobs.
Yeah.
These mining is almost all automated now, and jobs that there are going to be are frankly going to be, dudes with PhDs in engineering, probably from India and China,
right,
are going to be running the mine. I mean, that's who runs mines these days. So it's terrible. There's no reason to do it. The Star Tribune, the Minneapolis newspaper, a couple years ago did a big front page op-ed in which I think the title of it was not what was it? It was like, not here, not now, not ever. It's just like, this is just the wrong place for a mine. There are other, rare earth minerals in Minnesota, and I, even as a member of BHA and a conservationist, I'm not going to protest them mining in other parts of the state, but I'm going to go old school Pacific Northwest spotted owl hippie and chain myself to a freaking steamroller. I'm not kidding. I'm
Yeah,
like
yeah,
gonna
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna handcuff myself to a tree if I have to.
Forget
Lay
that
down
woman.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
be Mr. Tiananmen Square and stand in front of a tank.
I feel
Whatever
you.
it takes, bro.
I
We
feel you.
gotta stop this.
I feel you. I'm with you, and I that's your passion for place, and especially your passion for the boundary waters is so clear. I see it now. I also see it in your book, and yeah, I appreciate that. And I forget that woman's name. Who what was that woman's name? Who with a spotted owl? I forget her name. Up there, and where she lived in the tree for
Oh,
in that
right.
bird song or something. I forget her name. Anyways,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I mean, that's a subplot in that. Did you read that book, The Overstory?
I
Did you
have,
read
yeah,
that book? Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
there's people living in trees trying to save trees in the
yeah,
Pacific Northwest in that
yeah,
Richard Powers book too. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I wanna be respectful of your time, Tony. Tony, I know you gotta get going, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't ask one question, which is there's a and it's here in this it's in your book as well, but I wonder if you can expound on it just a little bit in the time we have left. Is there's a lot of conversation or controversy around humans being stewards of the land, right? Or caretakers of the earth rather than having dominion over it, right? Which is if you read like, Lynn White Jr.'s old essay. Well, I don't know, it's old now. It wasn't old when I read it necessarily. Um and I don't know, I studied animal studies in college in grad school and in my PhD, and I remember going down to Olvera Street and watching the Catholic priests, blessing the dogs and blessing of the animals, which I just thought was really cool. As a former pastor and also as someone who is very clearly a conservationist and a caretaker and steward of the land, how do you see that conversation, right, of between Christianity as having dominion over the land or being stewards of and caretakers of the land? Like where do you see that in very short amount of time? I know it's a really big
Yeah.
question, but
No, I can answer it. I mean, hermeneutically, what I would say is that part of the Bible, the first chapters of Genesis up until at least Abraham. So everything from Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden to their primordial murder to the Tower of Babel to Noah and the Ark. This is all what I'd call theopoetics. This is not this is primordial history. This is prehistory. These are the stories that Israelites told to one another around the campfire, like the Lakota told about a Tunkashila coming out of Wind Cave
okay,
in
yeah,
in the Black Hills. These were the primordial stories that they told themselves that gave them identity and purpose, but they're not meant to be norming stories. They're not meant to be normative for our lives as prehistory as they are. So, I mean, I put have dominion over the land in the same category as when someone says it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. I'm like, well, okay, these are not normative stories. Like because the Bible in Genesis chapters 2 and 3 talk about a man and a woman. That doesn't mean that it's not excluding gay people from having lifelong beautiful love, making families, etc. And similarly, because it's like subdue the land and have dominion over it or whatever. Yeah, I get it. I mean, this is the story that the Israelites told each other about their primordial ancestor Adam. But it's similar to what we talked about right at the top. Look, they took great pride in the fact that they were able to cultivate and plant and become, went from becoming nomadic people to becoming, agriculturalists basically and farmers.
hmm
And part of the reason that they, of course, so loved quote unquote the promised land was it was a very fertile land where they could farm and become, quite wealthy by means of agriculture and raising livestock and things like that. So, I get it that was a sensibility of theirs, but it was a similar sensibility that in early United States of manifest destiny, and we look back on it now and be like, well, I mean, I get it for the time, but we have a little better kind of perspective on it now. And maybe it turns out manifest destiny was a bit over the top, and a bit, maybe it's not how we want to continue to live. So I'd say the same thing about this, like, have dominion over the earth and subdue the earth. It read in context for the people at the time who were telling those stories. It makes sense, but that doesn't mean it's normative for us 5,000 years later.
Right. Well, thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. And I think it's a question that, that goes, I go back and forth on that with some of my friends oftentimes about that whole thing, and it's, we don't have near enough time to like unpack that whole conversation and unpack it, but I wanted to ask it because I think it's a really, really important one, especially in this day and age. Yeah, man. I'm going to let you get going because I know you got somewhere to be, but if there's anything you want to leave our listeners with, whether it be about the Boundary Waters or whether it be about, hunting or fishing or whatever, I'm going to give you, a moment of.
Well, I would just reiterate what I said earlier about the Boundary Waters, stay on your toes. And if you're so inclined, it is so easy to go to a website like BHA or like Sportsmen for the Boundary Waters, another organization I support, or Save the Boundary Waters, and write, like, on their homepage, you basically fill out your name and zip code, and it will auto generate an email to your congressperson and your senator. So
they make it easy.
If you got 30 seconds to spare for the last place in continental North America, continental United States, where you can paddle a canoe, there are no motorboats allowed, and you can dip a cup in the water and drink the lake water. If you would like that to continue, please help us fight this lust for mining around the Boundary Waters.
Yeah, man. Thank you for that, because I hope I can make it up there again and take some friends
go
up
together,
there,
bro.
I would love to, man.
Let's do it. And then you
come up to Minnesota.
Then you take me on a big Western stock hunt, because I've never done that before. I mean, I did once, as you read, very unsuccessfully for an elk.
Yeah. Come on out, man.
An elk bugle. I didn't know if it was an actual elk or another hunter in that unit in Colorado blowing an elk call.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of some very, very busy units in Colorado for sure.
Yeah, I was in one of them. Yes.
Yeah, I'd love that, man. I would absolutely love that.
Okay, well, we'll stay in touch. All right,
Tony. Thank you, brother. Thanks for listening to the Wild Lab. If today's conversation stirred something in you and you're ready to connect to your own inner wildness, then check us out online on Instagram at Step Into Your Wild, or go on over to www.stepintoyourwild.com to learn more about our coaching services and wilderness academies offered through Walker's School of the Wild. Look, this is real work for real people who want to live with more clarity, more purpose, and more strength, but you don't have to figure it out alone. Let's walk this road together. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and stay wild.